Good afternoon, everybody. This is David Zvislin, CAD Manager at Nolte Associates. Welcome today to our fourth and final session of our Civil 3D 2009 Introduction Training webinar series. Today's session is going to be on data references. What I would like to cover today is an explanation of what are data shortcuts and data references. Talk about the Nolte project data model and how we're going to use data references to help us manage all of our Civil 3D model objects in multiple drawing files. We'll talk just briefly about using Nolte CADapult or the Cadillac application because it's very critical that you use this when launching Civil 3D because it does set some of the configuration parameters so our data shortcuts will work correctly. We will teach you how to create a data shortcut, and then once you have a data shortcut, we will teach you how to create a data reference. Another tool we'll look at this afternoon is the data shortcut editor, which will allow you to fix any broken data shortcuts. So hopefully with what we teach you today, you will not have any broken ones, but it's nice to be able to go and fix those if you do. And then the final thing I'll look at this afternoon is Civil 3D and external references and some of the differences between a data. Hopefully you'll come out with some of the differences between a data reference and an external reference. All right. When we're done, I hope that you will meet the following objectives. You'll be able to identify all of the model objects or elements in Civil 3D which can be accessed with a data reference. List some of the basic concepts of project data management with data references. Pick up a few of the rules for using data references and some of the Nolte rules that we're going to impose. Hopefully you'll be able to create data shortcuts, and then from your data shortcuts create data references. You'll hopefully be able to identify the Nolte standard data shortcut folder and have a better grasp on how to use this to manage your projects. All right, so why do we use data referencing? Unlike Land Desktop that had a project database, all of the model data for Civil 3D is stored in our drawing files. For example, in Land Desktop, if you created a surface model, that surface was stored in a TIN file in the project database. That TIN was available to every drawing in the project. In Civil 3D, that surface model is stored in a drawing file, so Autodesk needed some way to allow us to use that model in other drawings. I would need to be able to use it in my road design drawings so I could sample profiles, or use it in my grading drawings so it can generate daylight lines or do do volume calculations from my surfaces. So definitely a need for this capability. All right, so it allows us to manage our project with multiple files. You could work with Civil 3D where all of your model objects are in a single drawing, but the problem with that is it's going to be one very large drawing file. And the other problem we have with that is with only a single drawing, I can only have a single person working in it. So we need to not only manage our data to keep our file sizes manageable, but we also need to manage it in such a way that allows us to work on our projects most efficiently. Right. Another reason we do this is for Civil 3D performance. The smaller we can keep our file sizes, the less model objects that we have in our drawing files, the better Civil 3D is going to behave. I definitely think Walnut Creek can attest to this in that some of their road design projects they had very large, long corridor models with lots of cross sections, and those drawings became very slow. Well, through data referencing and actually for corridor models with external referencing, we can break some of those pieces out to where it's a little bit more efficient to work with. All right. What can be data referenced? Not everything in Civil 3D is available as a data reference. The only things that you can get to are your surface models, your alignments and profiles, pipe networks, And then the last one there is an item called a view frame group, which is used for sheet layout. I'm not going to worry about that one too much, but it's the first four are what we can data reference. Everything else like points and parcels and grading objects are not available through data references. So you kind of need to watch that. So here's what we can access through data referencing. The Nolte project data model is what I'm going to talk about next, and this is kind of how we are proposing to break up our drawing files and organize them and name them for working in Civil 3D. Chapter 30 of the Nolte CAD user manual goes into a little bit more detail on this, explaining all the different files, file names, and what model objects or what data should be in each of the files. From that chapter, I've grabbed this flowchart here showing our typical data model, and hopefully everybody's familiar with the first or the top two boxes on here, the sheet drawing concept and the master drawing concepts, because we've been using both of those for many years now as we work with Land Desktop. What Civil 3D is going to add in is the bottom box down there, what we're calling model drawings. So we're now segregating our drawing files into three different categories. We're going to have our master files, which are going to be very similar to what we're used to in the past, and then we're going to have sheet drawings that we apply our title blocks and viewports to generate our plotted sheets, but then we're also going to now have the model drawings where we store the actual model elements. And one thing you're going to see on here is that we've kind of evolved into a standard where we are naming all of our model drawings by putting a -C3 on the end of the file name. So we have, for example, down here we have an EXTO C3, which will have all of the data, the point data, the break line data used to build the EXTO surface model, but then we will data reference that to a master file where we apply all the appropriate styles to generate the contours at the desired interval, and also possibly do maybe our contour labeling in that drawing. This EXTO drawing would then be externally referenced to all of our different sheet files. In this chart, there's some colored arrows. The red arrows represent external referencing, which we're all familiar with from going to our master files to our sheet file. But Civil 3D with the data referencing, we're going to model that here or represent that here using these green arrows. So going back to my existing surface, we can data reference that into my road design drawings where I'm going to be creating my roadway alignments and profiles, but by referencing this surface, I can then sample existing ground profile data. And these green links are dynamic, so if I go back in and edit my existing topo model, it will update in all of the drawings that reference that surface model. A couple of things I'll try to get to the end of today's presentation is we can also, with our corridor models, we can X-reference those to generate cross-sections, and we can also X-reference our PRMA, or our proposed mapping. This would be our lots and parcels. We can reference that into other drawings, excuse me, not data reference, but I want to say external reference, or XREF, and we can annotate those into other drawings. All right, I think that's enough for now on this. Just kind of wanted to introduce the concept of what we're trying to do and kind of what your project should look like. A couple of things on the naming. The reason we evolved into the name with the -C3 is so if you're using a multi-phase project, you can put the phase number on the file, and our model drawings will then sort adjacent to the corresponding master files when you're looking at them in CAD Launcher, or excuse me, CADapult or Windows Explorer. We are right now storing all of the model drawings in the master folder, in the CAD master folder is where those should be located. All right, a data shortcut, what is that? All right, a data shortcut is an XML file that contains information about the directory and drawing file location of our reference object. So basically it's the pointer to the drawing and the surface model for a surface data shortcut. All right. These are stored in a data shortcut folder, and the Nolte standard we're proposing, or not proposing, that we are using now, is that the data shortcut folder is going to be a Civil 3D directory in your project folder. So you can see the project I'm playing with today is one called TRB0100, and there will be a Civil 3D folder there. Civil 3D then creates the underscore shortcut folder with the different categories that it will then store these XML files. And really, you shouldn't put anything else in this folder. Don't put drawings here. Drawings all go in the CAD folder based on Nolte standard. This is just going to be data shortcuts. Any surveyors in the group, we've also configured Civil 3D to store the observation database files in this folder as well. So, but that's the only thing that'll be in this directory. The CADapult application will set that folder for us. So as long as you're using CADapult, when I pick on a directory in a job and select a drawing, it will set for me that working folder. And this is kind of like the Softdesk folder path that we had in Land Desktop, and we kind of have to keep aware of this. Really what it means is I can't work on two different projects simultaneously on my computer because it's going to be confused as to which data shortcut folder I'm working in. So if you're going to change projects, close Civil 3D down, come back into CADapult or Cadillac, select the new drawing or the drawing in a different project, and then open it again, and then Cadillac will set this working folder for you correctly in Civil 3D. All right, so we've got the first piece is called a data shortcut. From a data shortcut, we create what are called data references. All right, which I just said, created from the data shortcut. These are dynamic links, meaning if I modify the source object, all references to that object will also update. All right. A couple of things this allows us to do is I can apply different styles to the object when I reference it. So in my existing topo drawing, we're going to see I've got it displayed with 1 foot and 5 foot contours, but in my alignment drawing or my road design drawing, I may not want to see contours, so I can display it with just the border, or I can display it with half-foot contours or anything else, but it's all dynamically tied back to that original model. All right. To create a data reference, it's done through Prospector, and Prospector needs to be set on the master view, and when you're in master view, you will have this data shortcuts item listed, and it should show you the correct data shortcut folder, and then based on the different components, you will see your data shortcuts. Everything in here is done by right mouse clicking, just like we do with everything else in Prospector that we've seen in the previous sessions. All right, enough yapping. Let's get into Civil 3D, and we'll show you how to make some data shortcuts. All right, so I've opened this drawing up through CADapult, and we will see in here I've got my Prospector set to master view, and I now get this data shortcuts branch on here. I'll go ahead and expand that so you can see everything in here. But by default, if you're doing this right, it should pick up your job number Civil 3D folder. You can change these. You can change the working folder, which I'll click on, and the working folder is the job root. That's the working folder. And then the other folder is what's called the data shortcut folder. So if your project does not have the Civil 3D folder in it, we can click on this command, come in here and type in Civil 3D. Don't turn on any of the project template stuff. We're not using that. We're not set up for that. It does not fit our directory structure, but you would type that in and pick OK. It would then create the Civil 3D folder, the underscore shortcuts folder, and then all the different shortcut categories for you. I'm going to cancel that. Mine's already set up. All right. You can also specify a data shortcut folder, but right now I only have one in this project, which is all you should have. We do have a couple of projects we have set up. They are multi-phase, very large projects. We've actually created 01 Civil 3D, 02 Civil 3D, and so on. So you do need to pick and choose on those jobs which data shortcut folder you're working with. All right, it gets a little cumbersome for some of the complex projects, but 90%, 95% of our jobs should just have a single Civil 3D folder. All right, we'll look at these now. surfaces, alignments, pipes, and view frames. I have nothing in here. These are all empty. So to create a data shortcut, I'm going to pick on data shortcuts, right-click, and the very first command here is our create data shortcut. So I'll go ahead and pick on that. It will then scan your drawing for anything that it can create data shortcuts for, and you can come in now and just toggle on which ones you want. So I'm going to create a data shortcut for E01, or if you don't know which one you want, you can use the pick and drawing button, select the object. It will then highlight it here in the list. All right, it's that simple. Pick OK. That will now show up as an object that's available to be data referenced. Now I have a data shortcut for that. If I click on that down at the bottom here, it will show me the source file and the source location, so you can see where that is. All right, well, let's open up one of my road design drawings here. So I'm going to open, and I'm going to go to my RD01 drawing. And I've already got my alignment defined here. We did that a couple weeks ago in one of the earlier sessions. All right, so there's my roadway. I would like to sample existing ground profile here, so I need my existing ground model. To do that, we come into Prospector again. We need to be in Master View, expand data shortcuts, expand surfaces, select the surface that you want to reference, right-click on it, and the very first command here is create reference. Let me click on that. It will create the reference from the source. You can rename it, but I think you're just setting yourself up for problems in the future. I'm keeping mine with the exact same name. All right. You can choose a different style. So I can come in here and say, well, you know, I don't want my existing. I want to just see the border. I do recommend using border only most of the time because that's going to keep your file size small. If I go with contours, then I have to save all that contour information in my drawing. We can change the style later if you do want to see contours. All right. Actually, I think for today, this is a small site. Let's go ahead and leave contours turned on. So I'll go existing 1s and 5s, pick OK, and there's my surface now, data referenced from my source drawing. All right, let me go ahead and save that to make sure I've got that drawing saved. So I've now got my surface. Let me create my profile. We did this a couple of weeks ago as well, so I'm going to create a profile from the surface. There's my surface. I will add that, and it will stay dynamic. Let me put a style on that for existing. Draw it in a profile view. I'm at 10. Step through these. Hopefully it's not too fast for you, and I just want to make sure I've got EG style and EG labels. We'll go ahead and put FG on my finish grade and create, and we'll just pop that in right there. All right, so I now have my surface referenced into the drawing so I can generate a profile. All right. To show you this is dynamic, let me switch back to my existing topo drawing. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a big pile of dirt right here. So we've brought in a big dump truck. I'm going to set a point there. See, my elevation right now is 23.57. So let me add a point a little bit higher. So I'm in my drawing. I'm going to come in and edit my surface. And I'm going to add a point. And we'll just throw in right there. And we'll say, oh, I'll go real high. We'll say 28 feet. And we'll maybe throw another one in here at 28 feet. All right, and maybe another one right there. All right, so we just threw in a big pile of dirt in my model. Okay, so we'll hit return to that. Let me save my drawing. And then I'm going to switch back over to my road design. We'll switch to, and what it should do, I don't know, my mind's not doing it right now. There it goes. Just have to be patient. You will get a balloon notification down in the bottom right corner that says, hey, the source drawing has been modified, very similar to XREF. What do you want to do? And the command we're going to use is called synchronize. So let me synchronize that. And then what you'll see is our pile of dirt now shows up here. And same thing with my dynamic profile. That same pile of dirt shows up here in my profile as well. If you don't synchronize through the balloon notification, you can come in here into your surfaces. Your reference surface will show up. You know it's a reference because it has the little arrow icon on it, kind of like a Windows shortcut icon. But what you can do then is right-click on it and tell it to synchronize. All right, we'll go ahead and do that, and that'll synchronize. All right, so let me go, just to kind of refresh that, let me switch back to this drawing, and I will come into my edits here, and I will delete those points. All right, and I'll rebuild my surface. And actually, I'm going to close this drawing. I don't need this anymore today, so we'll go ahead and save those changes. I come back into my roadway design, and this time we'll do it through the menus here, through the Prospector. So I'm going to right-click on that surface. Again, I get a little shield indicating that it's out of sync. I'll hit synchronize, and my model now updates. So very powerful tool. Okay. If you want to open up this drawing again, we can come down to our surfaces and say, you know, I'd like to find the original drawing for this. And I can say, well, open that source drawing. Very nice, quick way to get to those drawing files. All right. One last command I want to show in here is the promote command. I'm not going to click on it. I just want to explain what it does. Is when I promote a data reference, it actually copies that model object to your drawing and removes the data reference. So you now have an instance of this model in the drawing. It does not copy any of the data that was used to create the surface. It doesn't have any of the dynamic elements. It is kind of what they call a snapshot in time of what that model looked like, and it becomes a static object in this drawing. Mostly what we do, I don't see a need to ever promote. You want to maintain the dynamic nature of your project so you can always come in and then synchronize your files. All right, I've got an alignment and profile here just to show you how to add those as data shortcuts. So let me go in, create data shortcuts. They will come in already checked for me, but I can do alignments and profiles. In order to data reference or data shortcut profiles, those profiles need to be in the same drawing as the alignment. I cannot data reference the alignment, create the profiles, and then data reference the profiles. I have to do them all in the same drawing. So we'll go ahead and pick OK to that. And we'll come down in here and we'll look now in here that I have my alignment and profiles available, and just kind of show what we can do with that is let me jump over to my second road drawing. Okay, to that one, and we'll minimize that, come into my data shortcuts, and I can say we'll create a reference to that alignment. Just like when you create alignment, I can apply styles. I can tell it what site to put it in if I'm using sites. What style do I want to use to display it? What labels do I want to do? I'm going to say don't put any labels on it, and pick OK, and there's where that alignment comes in. Okay, and then we can also, if we need the profile data, I can come in here, expand it, and say, well, I also need the finished grade profile, and I can create that reference. Oh, missed, FG. That doesn't show up until I actually create a profile view to display it in my drawing, but I can't create that reference. And again, these are all dynamic. If I go back and edit that alignment, come back to this drawing and resynchronize, we will see those changes. So it's kind of briefly the process of creating a data shortcut followed by the process of creating a data reference. All right, I'm going to close this one file. I don't want to save that one yet. All right, so you can see how, hopefully how powerful this is as a way of breaking your models up into multiple drawing files and then also managing, maintaining those links. All right, let me go back into the PowerPoint. All right. If by chance something changes, you're working with a third-party consultant, they give you a drawing with their Civil 3D model, but when they give you the newest version of it, maybe they've renamed the drawing and that data reference doesn't work anymore. Well, Autodesk created a utility for us called the Data Shortcut Editor, and it's mainly going to allow you to modify file paths and also file names. All right. Internally, an object is referred to by its handle, but if they give you a new drawing with that surface model, it may not have the same handle. So one of the options that we can use in the Data Shortcut Editor is we can also say, well, ignore the handle and use the object name. So if they give you a file with E01, I plop it into the same location, my data references should be maintained. All right. So this is called the Data Shortcut Editor, and let me show you briefly how to use that. I'll come back into here. Mainly I want my start menu. All right, the data shortcut editor is external, and it's going to be on our start menu up under Autodesk, and it's down here called the data shortcut editor. So I'll click on that. And then what you do is you want to open, and you don't open a data shortcut file, you open the folder. So I'm going to come down to my project, so that's a TRB0100, and then I'm going to pick on the Civil 3D folder is all I have to pick on. I'll pick OK to that, and it will find then all of the data shortcut files in this project folder. So you can see here's everything that we just created data shortcuts for. And what you can do in here is I can come in here and edit paths. So maybe you copied the file from a BD job and you got a job number. We can come in here and edit the folder locations. Or what I've seen a lot is working with a third-party consultant. They give us a surface model, and in the next iteration they give it to us, but it's got a different file name. We want to maintain the link so you can come in and change the drawing name, and then here's the option to specify whether we're doing it by handle or by name. And the default really should be handle or name is going to give you the best result. A couple of tools they have in here. They do have a find tool and a find and replace. So instead of having to go in and change the path for each entry, if you rename the root folder or the job folder, I can come in here and do a search and replace on the job name and replace it with the new job name. But just a nice tool to allow you to clean up and fix these. Hopefully you don't use this. If you plan your projects correctly and set them up correctly, you shouldn't have to use that. All right. We'll finish up now. We're going to talk about external references. Couple of things I want to point out, and something I've seen other users do already, is don't XREF a drawing that contains the data that you just data referenced. All right, I was helping somebody out the other day, and in their design drawing, they were doing some grading design. They data referenced the existing surface so they could daylight to it, but then they also XREF'd it so they could see the contours. You don't need to do that. Okay, we saw in here I can apply a style to this reference surface to display it however I want. I can come in, to the properties here, and I can say I just want to see the border. All right, so now there's the border. My profile is still tied to it. I can still, if I hover on it, I still get the tooltips for it, so it's still available for me to work with. I just don't see it. Well, if you want to see it, don't XREF the contours. Just pick it and apply a style. So I can do. So I got more stuff picked. There we go. Surface properties, and we're going to say maybe 2s and 10s. Okay, and I can label these contours. Everything that we did the other week on surfaces, I can do in here in terms of styles, and labeling will all work. All right, so don't XREF a drawing that you are data referencing. Okay, use the styles. All right. What can we XREF in Civil 3D that will provide us some functionality? The first thing we do is we can XREF our parcel model, and we can label our lines and curves with that. All right, so let me jump over again back into Civil 3D. A couple of drawings I have here. I've got my PRMA C3, this is actually my parcel model, but then I'm going to create my PRMA drawing. So this one, the C3 is the model, but this one is the one I want to do my XREF. So let me open that one. Okay, oops, I got to make my data references. Hang on a sec. I forgot I cleaned my project out, so let's open up the C3 as well. Oh, wait, hang on, what did I say? What can we data reference? We cannot data reference parcels. I'm going to XREF my parcel drawing. So we're going to attach the parcels. And everything should be 0 and 1. That looks good. And so that comes in now, and we'll ignore that. So these are now a XREF of my parcel model. So these are all my parcel objects. We haven't done parcels yet, but what I can do through here is in my parcel tools, I can add labels to my parcels, and I've already got everything set up for doing my lots. We'll do bearing above, distance below. We'll do curves with that, and pick OK. And I can now come in and label and apply labels to these objects directly from my drawing here. All right, I'll throw a couple of curve labels in here. So throw some labels on curves. Yep, that's a line segment. But these are all dynamically linked now. So if I update my model and modify any of these, they maintain their link and their relationship to the drawing. Okay. What you don't want to do is while you're X-referencing this is you don't want to, or while you're using this is you don't want to come in here into your XREFs and you don't want to detach it. Okay. If you detach it, you break the link between the labels and the objects. I can unload it. All right, my labels will all disappear because there's nothing there for them to display. They are actually getting their data right off the parcel objects. But if I come back now and reload it, we will see that those parcel labels are still there. They're still viable. But if I come in and detach, I now broke it. All those labels have been deleted, basically, so those are no longer available. So what that allows us to do is we can have our model, but then we can have different master or different sheet drawings that we XREF this, and we can apply different labeling based on what our needs are. All right, so that's one of the XREF components. The other thing we can XREF in here is our corridor models. We can XREF a drawing with a corridor model, and we can still sample corridor sections of that model. If you want to see surfaces in the cross section, you have to data reference the surface. We will have to data reference the alignments in order to create the sample line groups, but we can externally reference the corridor. I don't have enough time today, especially since I messed up and started late. I'm not going to just demonstrate that for you. That's something that we will do in future sessions as we get a little bit more into corridor modeling. All right, even with my beginning mistake here at the start of the session, I have still been able to finish a little bit early. I have 12:25, so we've got 5 minutes left. If anybody has any questions, feel free to type those into the question panel. I will try to answer those today. If you come up with questions later, email me, contact me through Communicator. I will gladly answer any questions that you have. If you need help setting up a project, give me a contact and we can help you set up through GoToWebinar or GoToMeeting and get you set. All right. I am not able to hear because I have everybody muted, so if you want to place questions, you have to type them in. I apologize for that. I did not set this up to allow us to have multi-user. I'm actually going to stop the recording, so for those of you watching this later on in the future, I hope this was valuable to you, and I appreciate your time.